Ladies and gentlemen, this panel is gonna consist of several pillars. The first pillar will be tackling the role of city leaders in guiding the futuristic urban and technological developments. With that, I want to start with His Excellency Khalfan Bilhoun. A beautiful day to you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, here's a fact, Your Excellency. We never arrive at the future. We are always present in the present. The present becomes the past, and the future arrives at the present. A bit of a philosophical introduction here, but what we would be asking is, how is Dubai ensuring becoming the leading city of the future? In other words, what is the role of city leaders to ensure that the city develops the latest research and innovative technologies and solutions?
First of all, good luck with your calories today.
Thank you very much.
Great seeing you, and always an honor to be in a panel moderated by you, an honor to be with the esteemed panelists and dear guests. I'm honored to be here with you today. You've summarized, first of all, in your first conversation, you mentioned our daily problem in the Museum of the Future. When you said things become, the present is present and the future becomes old, this is our day-to-day problem in the Museum of the Future, because we talk about the future, and we present the future in the museum, but then it becomes obsolete and old really fast, so we need to be constantly smart with our content management. So just wanted to jump there and say what you said just now is our daily problem in the Museum of the Future. But answering your question, and maybe before that, I think watching this video and having a conversation with His Excellency Dawood just now about the horizon and what has been achieved just now just gives you a simple idea of how forward-thinking we are as a nation here, led by our leaders and the leaders of those entities that are always a step ahead. And they basically make our life easier at Dubai Future Foundation, because our role is really to enable and create a better future. But when you have government entity, individuals that are willing to take this risk and accept the errors and the mistakes that can come through this planning, this is something not easy. This is something adventurous. It probably is one of a kind. There will probably be trials and errors and mistakes, but if you don't have that edge to actually do that, you will never be a leading city of the future. And governments are usually known for bureaucracies and bottlenecks and being slow. We're actually the opposite in this country, and this is what actually makes us advanced and really pushing the envelope and going forward, because it's a top-down approach from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, telling us the biggest risk is not to take risks, and then we have leaders here coming in with ambitious ideas that we can embrace. Now, going back to your question, in order for us to really maintain our positioning as a leading city of the future, the most important thing that we need to do is understand where the future is, right? And you do this not alone. You do this by constant conversations and research and connecting with like-minded people that are looking at those challenges. One example is today's convening, the World Government Summit. We have magnificent leaders from all over the world talking about big concerns. We have senior executives of big multi-corporations around the world sharing their thoughts. So this, for us at the foundation, is the fuel of our ideation and project execution. We look at all those ideas. We connect with like-minded research entities from all over the world. We disseminate reports based on those challenges, and we try to convert them into opportunities and then flip them into projects that will not only be for the betterment of Dubai and UAE, but for the betterment of humanity. We are a small country, yes. We are a small population indeed, but we have massive ambitions, and we want to make change. And I think once we do that and we work with like-minded people, the future will be bright.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. This does add a lot of light to the darkening question, which is the future is always on the way, and the idea of having a job that relies on envisioning what the future should be like is ever so continuous. It is never over. But thank you very much for sharing that. I want to move along now to Dr. Fernanda Lonardoni with another question. In light of this video that we've just seen, Doctor, how can the development of low altitude airspace can be made, let's say, sustainable, and what measures can be taken to minimize their environmental footprint?
Thank you very much, Youssef. First of all, I would like to thank very much for including UN Habitat in this discussion, and with a note of gratitude to Dubai Municipality, one of our longest standing partners. UN Habitat, I have to say, has been focused on planning cities and sustainable cities on land up to now. And it's always very nice to be challenged by cities like Dubai to think beyond that. So I'm very grateful for that on behalf of UN Habitat. Just before the session, we had a brief exchange. Mm-hmm. And you said you would introduce this question talking about the birds. Mm-hmm. Remember you said you would talk about the birds and listening to birds?
Yes.
So, and ultimately, I think the key questions of sustainability, and I would like to think of this as sustainability of urban air mobility overall, and how we will be building a continuum of land and air, or ground and space, as we think about cities and sustainable urbanization. So I think the easiest part of thinking about sustainability, we already have the answers for that. And I think this morning we learned so much about sustainable fuel for our aviation industry. And minimizing the footprint of the equipments that will be used for urban air mobility is something that I believe we already have the answers for. We already have a very good understanding of the landscape of carbon emissions and also carbon sequestration. But ultimately, the key question in terms of sustainability of urban air mobility will be how much and to what extent the visionary statement of Dubai will be engaging with a people-centered approach to development, engaging with issues such as human rights and environmental justice, because essentially solutions and innovation should be to the greatest ambitions of humanity, as His Excellency just mentioned. And I think we can think of this from the perspective of footprint and environmental sustainability, but the impact and the change and the transformation will happen if we embrace the more holistic understanding of sustainability and how this innovation and this technology can help us bridge some of the gaps that we have today. Mm-hmm. And going back to the birds, because Youssef was telling me that he would like to introduce this question by saying, we are very used to listening to birds. And how will this change? And I think the most challenging part of this business will be to make the birds fly in their own lanes. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a critical issue to engage with, because essentially the sky is being owned and is being used, and whatever we put there to help and to make our lives easier should not conflict with that and should respect the nature and the birds including. So, and UN Habitat is a proud partner and really grateful and willing to engage with you in this discussion.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And with this answer, distinguished guests, it branches out like a tree to an additional one. I mean, seeing this and aspiring to build a sustainable future above cities requires balance. I mean, you're adding a new element to the ecosystem of a city. Therefore, I'd like to dedicate this question and direct it to Mr. Ahmed Belghazi. How can we strike this balance to ensure the right planning for autonomous cities above Dubai's skyline?
That's a good question. But before I'm answering this question, I'm going to say that we're talking about ongoing project. Mm-hmm. And we're going to see it. We are seeing a lot of good results. And how we started, I'm going to just rephrase Mr. Dawood, a nice word, which I love it. We imagine something. So we started by imagining it. So we thought about it. We said, what are we going to do? Are we going to limit the sky for such a product? Are we going to put a kind of protocol, not use it? Or are we going to go into this new product, which we have to help our engaged stakeholder to have this product on running? Which is amazing. So that's why we thought about a nice model to have it in parallel of whatever demanded by our, let's say, stakeholder. So we call it putting in laws that can establish a way further to make those products are enabled in the sky. Furthermore, we establish something beyond regulation and base of trial where we can learn, and we design a model of learning to understand how we can use these new technologies. Actually, if you look at the product which DM is running, is a little bit far away from whatever available in the market. It's based on innovation, artificial intelligence, and to establish a standard regulation, it won't help them. It will be a barrier to the reality of the products. So we thought of, let's say that the three phases of the product, which is based on the learning, so we can change the regulation, we can adapt to their needs. Where we had something we call the balance between protecting the sky and balancing into their needs to use this sky. And we call it low altitude sky, which is gonna enable a reality above our head, as you said. And this is the reality we're gonna hear the fan, the squeeze of the drone over our heads. So the fantastic things about this project, it's an ongoing project. We're gonna see the result soon, far soon from away from this, after this summit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed. I want to move on now to Miss Maryam Al-Mary and see what she has to say about this one. How is Dubai planning on and shaping the skies of the Emirate of Dubai to ensure a sustainable future for the next generations?
It's a very tough question. People are thinking that drones are only flying. So I just want to remind the audience that Dubai has launched a 2040 master plan. This master plan is a comprehensive plan, especially when they meet the requirement of the happiness of the people above the ground, making sure that we are enhancing the quality of life, and even taking care of the zoning and the building on Dubai itself. So Dubai municipality is playing a very key role in the technology of the drone itself. So in terms of zoning regulation, building regulation, sustainability environment, quality of life, even the digital twin city. So the initiative that came up from Dubai municipality was a very important project, which was Dubai Horizon, as you said, as you just saw the video itself. Dubai Horizon is actually to develop a planning code on the air, which is something challenging, actually. Taking care and consideration all of the building heights, land use of the land itself, and making sure that the operation in the sky itself are safe for the people. Trying to implement this type of planning code above the air is something very difficult and for the next generation. So it is a very challenging project. Thank you.
But definitely not impossible. And the reason why, seeing, of course, all of these experts, of course, including His Excellency, gathered here together, it means there is definitely a roadmap. And it's very enriching to hear what everyone has to say about this, which brings me, of course, to Mr. Khalid Al-Jaber. A beautiful day to you.
Thank you very much.
Get ready for this one. Autonomous drones. I mean, how can they be seamlessly integrated into the existing urban infrastructure of cities? And what do you think there can be some modifications that will be necessary to accommodate these technologies?
Yeah, so first of all, I'd like to say that Dubai Air Navigation Services is responsible for providing safe and efficient air traffic services within its area of responsibility. We deal on a daily basis of more than 2,000 movements per day in the airspace. So you can imagine how it is congested within the Emirate of Dubai, that one. So integrating unmanned traffic management into a traditional air traffic management, which we consider it's a new player to the industry. So the air traffic management systems, a robust system, was established, governed by rules and regulations more than 50 years. So that one is the challenge for us. So what are the key two parts, how we saw it in coordination with our stakeholders? Collaboration comes first between all government entities and stakeholders. Secondly, adopting a phased approach, taking what is available from processes, regulations, that one, because we have a robust system over here and we can adapt it as a phased approach and then implement what is there for the other. Of course, there are some challenges and what need to be taken into consideration while implementing the phased approach. For example, the regulations, UTM regulations, we take into consideration data privacy and security, take into consideration the airspace design and classifications, either the geofencing or geozoning. The other aspect, which is people acceptance, the public acceptance of these new technologies. Some of them might not accept that, as they feel that it might impact their privacy or safety as well. So these are the main things which we are working very closely with our stakeholders, which you can see them at the panel over here, among other stakeholders, to overcome these challenges.
Mr. Khalid, thank you very much. They say the very main factor that makes you arrive at a destination is you being aware where you are right now. So thank you for the very extensive overview. Now, I want to move to the next pillar of this panel discussion, distinguished guests, which is our urban skies today, before we think of our urban skies in the future. Therefore, I want to take this, of course, with His Excellency Khalfan Benhoun. Your Excellency, the research action. Where is it? The future, how does it look like? In other words, what are the exciting use cases and future plan studies that are ongoing to develop a sustainable future in an autonomous city?
I think you mentioned, and by the way, I love your energy at 4 p.m. I don't know how you do it, but congratulations, honestly.
A lot of coffee.
MashaAllah alayk. I think you mentioned the key word, and I see many of my colleagues here sitting, which is R&D. I think on the research, there's a lot that has been done, but I think there's more to be done. I think when you look at the most innovative cities around the world and you look at the percentage of R&D as a percentage of their GDPs, it goes to up to north of 5% for the solid R&D cities that are really putting and deploying capital. I think there's more to be done. We're working hand in hand with the Executive Council, and we appreciate His Excellency Abdullah Al-Bastli's support on the R&D mandate at the council level and, of course, at the stakeholder level. But I think in the next era, it's all about how you invest in talent. It's all about how you connect with academia. It's all how you deploy the right capital into research, the right funding metrics into research, whether it was grants or equities or debt products that can complement the R&D efforts. People need to know that in R&D there's a lot of failure, but it's not failure. That's what people need to know. This is a learning curve, and this is a pivoting moment. And if you look at the growth of the UAE and Dubai, maybe people talk about the success stories of طيران الإمارات وبرج خليفة وبرج العرب and the Palm Islands. Those are things that the country had doubled down on. But make no mistake, we did some errors along the way. We've announced projects that have pivoted and changed, but that's not a failure. The team that had went through this journey learned so much and ended up becoming heroes on other projects. And the money spent on those projects wasn't a waste. It was knowledge, it was expertise. With R&D, there'll be so much of that. But I think with the digital economy coming forward, and with the impact of AI, and with the impact of the metaverse, which all those research reports talking in the north of 10 trillion for AI and 5 trillion for the metaverse by 2030. Those are humongous numbers that will create a major impact. But if we don't invest in having the right talent that will build that ecosystem for us and will create in-country value for us, in building our landscapes, and building, I mean, what we heard today as a fantastic effort, building the horizon above. Who would have imagined that this would be a plan? I was sitting yesterday, literally, on my phone, ordering food, and I'm looking at the delivery app and thinking, I know where the car is, I know how long it will take, and my food is literally being prepared right now, and I've paid for it, and it's all on my phone. Had you told me that this would happen 10 or 15 years ago, I'd say you're mad, that I'm actually doing all this with a push of a button. So everything you see here right now, we're maybe thinking is fiction, will be reality in no time. But in order to continue this, we need to continue investing in research and development. We need to understand that this is all a learning curve, and this is what will create talent, this is what will attract global talent, and this is what will build local talent for us.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I mean, and it's true, the right man in the right place can make all the difference. And in research and development, Your Excellency, I think you agree with me, there are no right or wrong answers,
Absolutely.
only right questions.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Let me move on to Ms. Mariam Al-Mhiri. Now, the futuristic sustainable solutions, where can we see them already deployed in urban environments today? I mean, what tasks Are they performing? I mean, would we be surprised to learn what is already possible in today's skies?
Yeah, let me share with you something that we have learned from the aviation, actually, because we're focusing on municipal services. Suddenly, when we try to coordinate with the people from aviation, we notice that drones are called unmanned aerial vehicles,
yes.
that their vehicles are flying over Dubai. So now we are using UAVs instead of drones, yes. Which is a new term that even we noticed from the aviation people. And we noticed that this is a promising technology that Dubai is focusing on, actually, and especially in different segments of industry. And people will use it for delivery, people will use it for taxi, people will use it even for navigation as well. So Dubai municipality is playing a very big role in partnership with our stakeholders, especially with Dubai Foundation and even Dubai Civil Aviation Authority, Dubai Air Navigation, and even Dubai Police. Will not forget them because they are taking care of the security as well. So all of us are putting one only targeting, which is keeping people on the air, on the floor of, or on Dubai itself, safe and even secure. So Dubai municipality will play a very good role in Dubai Horizon to maintain the operation on the sky and even the development of the surrounding communities. So I think I answered your question.
If you allow me just to very briefly, I mean, I may be focused on Dubai municipality, but the linkage between other stakeholders is ultimately key, and clearly with the Dubai Civil Aviation and having all stakeholders be in the same room with the same mindset is also key to the progression of aviation. So maybe I focused on the municipality, but of course the supporting stakeholders also play a key role to ensure something like this reaches fruition. I'm sorry to jump in.
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you, Ms. Mariam. The end result is definitely a big picture, and we're all pieces of that puzzle. The jigsaw can be complete with our conjoined efforts and planning. Thank you very much. Mr. Khalid Al-Jaber, I want to throw back to you with a question, which is, if you could help us with what some of the limitations, or let's call them roadblocks, that drones and other futuristic sustainable development solutions are facing in today's cities.
Actually, we don't call them roadblocks, we call them challenges, because we love challenges here in Dubai.
Nice one.
Because this will make us creative, innovative, to get up with solutions. So in addition to adding drones into our congested airspace, I will highlight into maybe 3 main things which we are evaluating and studying about it. I think the first one is UTM regulations, limitations, because the technology pace is moving faster than the regulations. So for that, this is one of the aspects. The other aspects related to weather. The weather when it comes to wind behavior and pattern due to high building raises that might impact the performance of the drones, even the companies who are operating these models. Lastly is the communication infrastructure, because we need always to keep in touch with the drones and see them where they move around, and to make the airspace safe for the users. So, but nevertheless, we are working, again, as His Excellency said, we are working jointly with our stakeholders to trial, test, and try these concepts and method of operations and come with alternative solutions.
I'm pretty sure that if a challenge can be anticipated, it surely can be countermeasured with conjoined efforts. Dr. Fernanda, in this same pillar, how can we ensure that the development of low-altitude airspace will contribute to the creation of more human-centric cities? In other words, enhancing the quality of life and urban experience for residents.
This is such a critical question, and one that speaks to the heart of human habitat. All our work on knowledge and innovation is people-centered. And I think what helps us to answer this question is always remind ourselves on what's the problem that we're trying to solve. And what is the problem that we're trying to solve? From a city perspective or from an urbanization perspective, I could think of so many, but let's think of 2. traffic congestion and spatial inequalities. Let's think that this whole new mobility era and all this technology will help us have better connectivity, spend less time in traffic, or have more time for ourselves, or ensure that we have the right services delivered to everyone in all parts of the city. And I think to ensure that this remains human-centric, in the different stages of the development of this, R&D will be critical, but going back to these questions will be also essential. Because what happens a lot when it comes about innovation is that it becomes an end in itself. And we detach ourselves from the first problem that we were trying to solve when we developed this. And usually these problems should be to improve the lives of people and the quality of life in cities, including through urban air mobility and all of that. You know, when I was reading about the work of Humane Habitat in this area, planning the use of skies, I came to an example that happened to me 20 years ago, and this is a long time ago, when I was doing my graduation thesis. And I'm trained as an architect and as an urban planner, and I grew up in Brazil, and I am Brazilian. And you may not know, but São Paulo, the largest city in Brazil, is the city that has the largest helicopter fleet in the world. So about 500 helicopters. And this is a figure that I came across 20 years ago, and I remember I was amazed about it because my thesis was looking into mobility in metropolitan areas. And, but it turns out that it's been 20 years. São Paulo remains the city with the largest helicopter fleet in the world, and I know this is to some extent different, but we are talking about using the skies to move things, move people, and move things. But São Paulo remains one of the most unequal cities in the world. And I could just bring this figure from a point of view of income, and it came across, and I was reading that, you know, the life expectancy difference between a person that is driving these helicopters and who lives in a wealth neighborhood in São Paulo, and the person that lives in one of the vulnerable areas where nothing arrives, not even medication, and eventually with a drone, because I'm talking about the very unsafe areas. So the life expectancy difference between these two extremes of the city, which are 30 kilometers apart, is 23 years. So someone living in these wealthy areas and driving the helicopters lives on average 23 years more than the person living in the vulnerable areas. And I'm talking about this city that 20 years ago was known for having the largest helicopter fleet. And I'm just making this not as a spirit of comparison, but as a spirit of, again, connecting us with the problem that we're trying to solve, and how the vision, the means that a city like Dubai has can help other cities to inspire, but also look at the essential problems and how essentially something like this can make the lives of people better. And engaging with people and all through the process of designing, developing, and deploying such trains will be critical for that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for bringing that to the table, Doctor. Let's tackle the final pillar in this panel discussion, distinguished guests. And I want to move this with His Excellency Khalfan bin Houl. Your Excellency, looking 20 years into the future, how do you think the current plans and developments will reshape the city's skyways and the urban landscape more broadly?
So I think the key thing is when you look forward in the future is to really understand, go backward first and see how humanity has evolved. And that's the way we look at it at Dubai Future Foundation. How has big disruptions really created the difference with humanity? And you'd notice that humanity, there was no other way than actually adapting to change. It's inevitable that humanity will have to adapt to transformational change. Maybe this time with the implication of the things that we see, we're imagining robots and drones. And I made a statement once that scared the hell out of many people, which when I said imagine, in one of the sessions, imagine you add quantum computing and robotics and AI and what will happen. And people started looking at the negative side of things. But I think we need to realize that humanity have always prevailed. And like I said about the application thing, if you ask people during the invention of the aircraft and you go 100 years before that and you tell them that you are going to be 30,000 off the ground at some point, they'd think it's impossible. So I think with the application of those technologies and those ideas, we simply need to embrace them, we need to accept them, But I think the biggest message out of all this, and this might sound like a broken record to my colleagues over here because I keep on saying this in the office, I think the world has been giving us so many signs since COVID, so many curveballs, and we're just distracting them. If you go back to the, and I'll tell you what are the signs, but I'll tell you the incidents first. So think about COVID. COVID came by, different countries dealt with it differently. Smaller countries dealt with it maybe better than bigger countries, whether it was on the lockdown phase or the vaccination phase. Then you come up with all the economical conflicts around the world, the global south and the global north. Another sign of, it's alluding to what I want to come to, which is the fragmentation of the world. So you have a fragmented world when it comes to handling COVID. You have a fragmented world when it comes to the economical conflicts. You unfortunately have a fragmented world from a geopolitical perspective right now. And then you look at this nation and we get a message from our leadership that the agenda, we have zero interest in politics. Our interest is to be a peaceful, prosperous country that focuses on the human first. And when you have that agenda, no matter what challenge you have, whether it's 20 years in the past or 20 years going forward, and you're willing to collaborate, then, I mean, the future will be bright. Whether it's AI or the metaverse, you need to regulate it. We cannot regulate it through the population of 10 million people. This needs to be talked upon and understood with the 7 billion around the world, and slowly, I mean, take baby steps towards achieving that majority of alignment. So conversations need to be done, alignment need to be done, but make no mistake, you will see, going back to your question, you will see more drones, you'll see more robots in the street, you will see, I haven't tried the Apple Vision Pro yet, but I hear it's insanely immersive and valuable. For those of you that tried it, you probably know people at Apple that hooked you up, and I didn't try it yet. You did?
It'll be in your office next week, Your Excellency.
شكرا. عندنا واسطة من الريال. عقب ما حسدناه بيطرش لنا أبل. And I think this is obviously we need to embrace all this. You will see a more digital world, but my last message is the human comes first. So we need to think about the mental and the social well-being of our people. When you look at our kids at the moment, if they are going to continue on their track, 20 years from now, we're in trouble. Because all you see is that they're sitting on their computers, they don't socialize, they're unbelievably amazing in what they do on the computer, but ask them to come and sit on a panel and have a social conversation. They won't do it.
That's true.
But they go on the screen and they talk between them like superstars. In between them, and probably the population is even bigger there. But there's a lot of education as well from this. They understand cities and countries much better from the gaming. Another example is one of the guys is playing this game and he understands and knows every city in Iraq because of the game. لو عاطين كتاب ما بيفهم. If we had a conventional education, he wouldn't. So there are pros and cons, but how do we maintain the physical and the mental well-being of humanity in the next 20 years is a much bigger risk than extracting the value of technology and robotics and metaverse and drones that will come whether we like it or not.
Couldn't agree more, Your Excellency. We'll definitely, the future will definitely arrive with all of its advances, but it is important to remain, to remember the past and be aware of the present. Thank you very much. In this pillar, future-making distinguished guests, we're going to move the last and final question to Ahmed Bilghazi. Mr. Ahmed, now, with something this amazing and such a wonderful vision to the future, it begs the question of what are the future economic opportunities that could be associated with investing in low-altitude airspace?
This is an amazing question. Actually, everything is about the money. So now we're talking about the money. When we look at this project, we defined safety, security as a priority. But we found something very interesting, to be honest. Economy is very important. And when you look deep into the economy, we found a list of suppliers. And I'm sure and somehow in the end of this project for the DM, our stakeholder, they're going to sell the data for all the GIS information for another third party to be learned. So this one specific something to be sold. And same for the Dubai Future Foundation. They're going to sell their own research regarding the drone. So these are another small part of the, we call it the ecosystem. However, we learn something from our leaders. We have to spin the supply. So may demand will come over after we spin the supply. And this is what happened. We design the sky that there is a specific level that's going to be serving for all the demand. And that level going to create a big demand. And what we're talking about, infrastructure, technology, software, small component, even we're talking about supply chain of delivery companies, soft people who are going to be engaged for training, research. So we're talking about a huge economy specific. And one of the things when we asked the money from Department of Finance, they said, actually, these are non-direct money. We need something direct. But this is going to be the future. When you design something, you spin the wheel for a supply, as we learned from Sheikh Rashid, God mercy in his soul, he teaches us how to spin it, that create something for a future. And this is what's going to happen upcoming, the new era. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, to all of our speakers of excellencies, of our distinguished speakers, please give them the round of applause they deserve.